A fierce battle raged within the inner sanctum. Louis's innocuous hand chop slashed through any obstacles. Furthermore, it was accompanied by a shockwave which closed in on Laplas, who was fleeing further away. However, Laplas was merely evading, almost teasingly, with a relaxed smile on his face. Right, are you Roy's big bro? You're twins. Then you can stop fighting already, you won't be able to beat me. Laplas was so unconcerned that he could run around dodging attacks, and still have the strength to crack jokes. Louis remained emotionless to Laplas's teasing. He didn't mind that his attacks were being avoided. He simply continued to swing his hands at Laplas. At some point, the two ended up fighting outside of the tomb. With Laplas constantly avoiding Louis's attack, it was only natural that they would wind up here. As you just said, I am Louis's twin. Our power was quite alike to each other, so was our appearance. The only difference was that Roy was more aggressive while I didn't have much emotion, that is all the difference. However, there was one aspect that I am a lot stronger than him in, that is, I have good eyes. The hell is good eyes? I can closely analyze my opponent's skill, body language and his focus of attack. That is why I clearly see that you have been looking for an opening on me ever since we started. The hell, so you really are better than your bro. But having a good pair of eyes alone ain't gonna beat me. Don't sound so certain. By the way, my name is Louis. Please do not call me his bro. To be honest, I was not that close to Roy. Fine. It's none of my business anyway. Amidst the fierce combat, or rather, Laplas evading Louis's pressing attacks and casually responding, it was not Louis who was observing him. Instead, Laplas was the one analyzing Louis. It was evident from the expression of his eyes. Enough of this, aren't you getting tired? Take a good nap for now, Louis declared. His attacks began to intensify. Told you it's useless. Is that so? Then allow me to go even further. His tone did not change at all, yet Laplas had a bad feeling about this. His instincts were surprisingly accurate in times like these. He instantly darted away from the scene with overly theatrical movements. His judgment was on the mark. Louis's attack split apart and decimated the location where Laplas was standing just a moment ago. What is this power? The latest attack held immense destructive potential. Had Laplas continued to underestimate Louis, he likely would not have been able to react quick enough, sustaining severe injuries as a result. Phew. I'm finally getting the hang of this. I'm surprised you managed to dodge that strike. Looks like you are not a simple man after all. You wanted me to get careless so you could take me out with that shot, right? Well, I can't say I didn't. But I can still beat you without underhanded tricks like that. What are you on about? Laplas had slaughtered Roy. At the time, Roy had underestimated Laplas, but even if he hadn't, Laplas's strength was still far greater than that of Roy's. Regardless, Laplas did not get careless. Even when Roy acted as the body double of Demon Lord Luminas, his powers still rivaled Kazalum's. That was the undeniable truth. Kazalum was like a parent to Laplas and the clowns, and there was no way Laplas would let his guard down against someone of his caliber. Just now, that was the enhanced version of Blood Rain. Its magic aura was purposely hidden to lower my opponent's guard. Although, once they've seen it in action, it is impossible to pull it off again. Louis decided to explain his skill to Laplas, even though he was essentially showing his hand. Yet hearing this worsened the ominous feeling in Laplas's heart. This is bad. Is he stalling? The hell is this guy's goal? Laplas's instinct told him that he was still in danger. He determined that he would fall into Louis's trap at this rate, and decided to pull out his trump card immediately. There was no time for hesitation. A moment of indecision could cost him his life. And that is why you will die here. Louis roared as Laplas's surroundings exploded. The shock waves from the explosion were concentrated at the center region where Laplas was standing. He had nowhere to run, since the blood ray missiles had already locked onto him. The victor had been decided. Anyone would reach the same conclusion if they saw it. The flames burned fiercely. A humanoid figure collapsed at the center. What a pity. Roy and I were the same person. It was Luminas' Sama's power that separated us into two. Roy's death had returned my original power back to me. In the past, there was once an extremely violent bloody lord that no one dared to challenge. It was Luminas who subjugated the man and recruited him into her service. But because of his sadistic and violent nature, he constantly clashed with Luminas' other subordinates. It was then that Luminas decided to bisect the person, naming one of them as her right-hand man, the Pope, and the other as her body double, the Demon Lord. In other words, Louis had finally regained his old powers and became complete again. He was several times stronger than before. Even if Laplas's power was above that of Roy's, Louis still had confidence in winning. And that was why. Terrifying. That was a close call. Louis felt a bit surprised to see Laplas raising his body and standing up. There was no way Laplas would ignore such a good opportunity. Run away now, footman, or you're gonna get killed. Haha, well I'm not content yet, I may really end up that way if I continue. Footman was devastated by cuts and bruises, courtesy of Gunther. Gunther was the strongest among the 3 archdukes under Lumina's command. Even though he wasn't nearly as powerful as Louis in his complete form, he was still capable of rivaling Footman. Laplas was able to meticulously analyze this aspect even during his battle with Louis. It would have been too easy for him to flee by himself, but there was no way Laplas was going to leave Footman to his own demise. Even if I go all out here, I still won't be able to take all of them out. Footman will probably die before that too. That being the case, it's best for us to run away as soon as possible. We've done our job of stalling the enemies, so there's no need to risk our necks any longer, Laplas concluded. He intentionally spoke up to distract Louis before taking action. His plan worked, and so both Laplas and Footman managed to escape with their lives. Thus, only Luminas and Maria Rosso remained inside the tomb. Luminas seemed to be holding back against Maria's attacks. She was not fighting seriously. The fact that the being before her, Maria, was able to hold her own in a lightning-fast battle was proof in itself that she was a fake. Yet, even so, Luminas could still sense the benevolent aura that Maria emanated. Granbell probably preserved Maria's body, and then used her corpse to create this death golem. No, that's not right. This carcass has no free will. This must be a familiar summoned by the necromancy spell Raise Undead. To have resorted to such forbidden sorcery, has that man really fallen that low? Anyone would pray, having lost their loved ones. Pray that their loved ones would return. But no one could grant this impossible wish. Luminas could understand Granbell's feeling as to why he resorted to heretical crafts like that, but her mind could only relate on a hypothetical level. Luminas was far from death, and therefore she could never truly understand sorrow and grief. Granbell and Maria were a very intimate couple. Maria was a saint's priestess, or saintess, that supported the hero Gran throughout his life. Gran wanted to share the burden of Saintess Maria, and thus they got stuck with each other. The two were so close that it made Luminas, who was their enemy at the time, jealous of them. It demonstrated the extent of Granbell's resolve to have turned his precious Maria into a familiar. However, she was abnormally strong, so he must have casted other dark spells on her. Luminas came to this realization because Maria had used countless special abilities during their duel. It was like she was invoking several unique skills at once, and even Luminas was having a hard time fighting her. Well, it's quite magnificent, it's still too weak. Granbell probably knew she couldn't defeat me. Then, his goal here must be. A sense of uneasiness suddenly washed over Luminas as she pondered. She felt like she had overlooked something very important. Luminas Sama, the intruder has escaped. Louis is currently pursuing them, and I shall depart to join him. Gunther had returned to report to Luminas. Yet he stopped halfway, just as Luminas finally noticed what was wrong. Something was missing in the room. Something very important. Gunther saw it. Luminas' heterochromatic eyes simultaneously darted to the same place. The carefully guarded Holy Ark from within the depths of the tomb had disappeared. Luminas was struck speechless. She was in complete shock and denial of what was in front of her. This shouldn't have happened. Stupefied, Luminas took a direct hit by Maria. Luminas Sama. Gunther's anxious voice reached her ears, yet Luminas had no time to be concerned. The pain quickly spread across her body, but she welcomed this stimulation to her senses. It helped her keep her cool. Part of Luminas' mind calmed down and began to think critically once again. That part forced her to accept the reality of the situation. Although she desperately wanted to deny the truth, she managed to pull herself together with her calm, analytical mind. And the reality was that the coffin made of holy particles, the Ark of Holy Power, had been stolen. Overwhelmed with rage, Luminas pierced through Maria's chest. Luminas unleashed the mana from within her body with a furious roar. Granbell, have you really come to do this? You dare. You dare test my limit, Gran. The tomb was instantly destroyed by a tsunami of immense power. Lumina's surroundings were filled with swirls of chaotic mana, to the point that she had become an aura of death. Gunther? Yes, I am here to serve. Find them. Flush out the invaders at all costs. Understood. No more words were needed. Gunther acted immediately, having understood Lumina's will. Facing an enraged Luminas meant that even Gunther could lose his life if he weren't careful. If this mission fails, Lobelia may face destruction. Gunther thought as he sprinted out as fast as he could. Luminas was the only one left at the scene, and was having a difficult time trying to simply suppress her anger. She began analyzing in a compassed manner, knowing that if she were too reckless, it would only worsen the situation. Her thoughts needed to be detached from her emotions to Luminas. This was only natural. Nonetheless, the incident had shocked her greatly. This can't do. If it's not carefully protected before the time comes, it'll likely lead to this world's destruction. It'd be something even I won't be able to handle. That object, the Holy Ark, had been entrusted to her by an important friend. If she were negligent in its management, the world could face an unprecedented catastrophe as a consequence. That was why it had been sealed tight. Luminas calmly scrutinized the current state of affairs. Only she could remove the seal imposed on the Holy Ark. The holy particles would burn even the original caster, Luminas. An example of how powerful and terrifying the barrier was. Thus, the problem was, how could something like that be stolen? Who could it be? To have taken that item means this person was quite capable, or at least strong enough to rival me. In other words, this individual's strength was on par with the demon lord's. The chaos Granbell incited at the Grand Cathedral must have been a distraction. The fact that Granbell entrusted them with his key goal meant this person was powerful. He definitely had enough faith in the other person to let them steal the Holy Ark, while allowing himself to play bait. In this wager, Granbell had won. No, perhaps there is still time. I can't show weakness at this point. Compared to that, right now I should. What did Granbell want with the Holy Ark? She needed to confirm this first and foremost. Luminas hadn't shared any information about the Holy Ark with Granbell. It was confidential information. Even Gunther and Louis only possessed a surface-level understanding of it, and the young girl sealed inside. Granbell was willing to sacrifice all of his aces. Just from that knowledge alone, anyone could see that his resolve was more than just strong. Luminas could clearly tell that something was off. As long as I can achieve my true goal, nothing else matters. Luminas could feel this hateful sentiment from him. Very well, I shall confirm your true intentions first. Luminas muttered and turned her gaze towards the cathedral.